Thank you, Headmaster Taylor. And good afternoon, Trinity-Pawling faculty, parents, and most importantly, the graduating class of 2018. It's an honor for me to return today and share this momentous day with you as you all step forward into your bright futures. I thank you all for this opportunity. If you'll allow me a brief moment, I'd like to recollect on how much this institution means to me. You see, I spent the entire scholastic year of 2005 treating school as a voluntary endeavor. By the end of the year, I had failed to finish 3 varsity seasons and somehow had managed to get a D in Spanish, which is a language I'm fluent in. I viewed homework and class attendance as an optional activity. It's difficult for me to even look back and understand my mentality at the time. So it took a trip, 3,000 miles from California, here to Trinity-Pawling, for me to fix those issues. I found myself here. Fortunately, in my time here, I was able to grow and find myself. I remember sitting in my dorm thinking, here I am, far from home. This will all be a waste if I don't put in the effort to change. I made the conscious decision that things would be different. I would be different. Although I'm certain if you ask any of the most tenured faculty behind me, they can attest to the fact that this change was neither smooth nor instantaneous. I didn't do it alone. Throughout my time here, I was the benefactor of the careful support and guidance of this faculty. You see, we are all byproducts of the effort and sacrifice of those around us. And now I stand here before you, grateful not only to have attended this institution, but also for the opportunity to speak today and share what little wisdom I have gained. A few years ago, I received a call from a stranger, asking if I'd be willing to speak to a young man in a situation similar to mine almost 10 years ago. And I agreed to meet with one of your fellow graduates, Ramon Davis, and explain to him the gifts Trinity-Pawling had granted me. The moment I received that call, my mind immediately reflected on the individuals here who so greatly impacted my life. Mr. McDougall, Coach Karate, Mrs. Reed, and countless others make the conscious choice not only to educate young men, but to live amongst you, offering their wisdom both inside the classroom and in the warmth of their homes. Even as I mention them now, my words still fall short of the praise they truly deserve. I concluded that the greatest way any of us graduates can give our thanks and acknowledge their efforts is through our own contributions to the community around us. That is why the moment I answered that phone call, the opportunity to be a positive influence was my only option. And Ramon, I hope I steered you right and that you found as much growth here as I did. Trinity-Pawling employs a unique effort system as a measure to evaluate your contributions as students independent of your grades. And I remember my own years butting heads with my professors over how much I had applied myself each grading period. Then the epiphany came. The harder I worked and the more involved I became in the learning process, the more independence I found. And most importantly, as you gentlemen would know, the more free weekends I found. Former U.S. Navy SEAL Jocko Willink has a quote that perfectly encapsulates this concept. Discipline equals freedom. I'm certain that all of you have practiced that tenet every day here at Trinity-Pawling. Discipline equals freedom has another application though, inside our conscious thoughts, the mental component. Learning to have an honest conversation with oneself is something we do all too rarely. Frequently we convince ourselves to take the path of least resistance, or quickly distract ourselves from that which we consider important. We replace it with things that are immediately gratifying. But if you are able to enact discipline not only in the things you do, but the way you think, you unfetter yourself from the chains of limitation. Determine the things that are most valuable to you. What qualities do you want to live by? What things do you want to accomplish? How are you physically going to accomplish these goals? When you're able to exist in that vacuum, devoid of distraction, where all that is left is you, your aspirations, and the path to them. In my time in the NFL, I remember one day vividly, watching Drew Brees standing in front of a weight room mirror in the middle of one of the most absurd exercises I've ever seen. While the rest of us were lifting weights, he stood before a mirror, literally pulling what I can only describe as an imaginary bow and arrow. I know it sounds absurd, but this is fact. I was stunned by the immense focus on his face. It was as if he was transporting himself somewhere else. He had no concern for what the rest of us thought of this incredibly strange display. So I couldn't contain my curiosity. I politely asked him what the point of what he was doing. What was the point of what he was doing? Matter-of-factly, he looked me in the eye and stated the exercise is indeed a form of visualization. He was simulating every play from today's practice and pretending like it was the game, inserting himself into that moment, imagining his progressions and when and where he would throw the ball. I'll never forget the immense amount of purpose and vision in his eyes as he described how the drill aided him. And in retrospect, I think that any great athlete who manages to sustain their high level of performance for long periods of time, over a decade in Drew's case, has that deep, fierce internal tenacity. The greater the goal you seek to achieve in life, the smaller the margins become between success and failure. Prioritize the things that will help you achieve your goals first. That is where the discipline comes in. The commitment in executing your process comes next. There isn't anything overtly romantic or appealing about the repetitive grind, day in and day out, about working towards your goal. But remember, that discipline equals freedom. You have to zero in on the things you want to achieve and narrow your focus. Pinpoint the exact things that will take you to the heights you want to reach. Then the question is, what if you're not the third leading passer in NFL history? Does that rule still apply? Well, my experience would tell you absolutely. I've been a captain and an All-American, but I've also been the 5th guy on the depth chart. I've sat in a room with 10 other grown men, seeking the same job as me, knowing that not only would I have to earn my place, I would have to best them in the process. Being 5th on the depth chart is a difficult place to be, so I was brutally honest with myself. I knew I had a month of training camp to make my mark, and I would get limited reps in practice. In essence, not a lot of opportunity or time to make a great impression. So what do you do when time is short and the opportunity is few and far between? I spent every moment I wasn't on the field watching the guy in front of me. I made sure I didn't just know my job, but I knew how it fit into the greater defensive scheme. Being normal and going with the flow like everybody else wouldn't cut it. If someone thought I was practicing too hard or asking too many questions in meetings, too bad. I had an objective, a job to win, and people's opinions were the last thing I was concerned about. Andrew Luck once told me that football was one of the purest forms of meritocracy. On any game day, when you took the field, the single greatest determining factor in your wins and losses was your preparation and your execution. But Andrew's message applies further than football. Sport is simply a microcosm for the struggles of life present us. Life offers both marvelous opportunity and painful misfortune. There have been times where I've been lucky and received blessings I truly didn't deserve. I've also suffered incredibly frustrating setbacks. I've watched seasons disappear to injury, and I'll never forget the day I watched 275 other players get drafted, and I was not. Yet those are merely challenges, and I never let them dishearten me. The discipline lies in your personal honesty. Always be accountable to yourself. Life's problems will remain immovable unless you choose to search for the solutions. Embolden and empower yourself. Realize that you are the only controllable factor in your success. The chaotic life of nature will always present obstacles along your path. It is your job to overcome them. The realization that you are both responsible for your successes and your failures is a daunting one. It requires you to make yourself vulnerable to the fact that things may not go according to plan. But take ownership in them both. For you have earned the right to bask in the glory of your successes. And conversely, don't shy away from the pain and discomfort of heartbreak. I've heard people refer to this mentality as a growth mindset, where every challenge is an obstacle but an opportunity for new growth. But I prefer to use the words of former U.S. soccer captain Abby Wambach. Failure is fuel. Want to know what I remember? Want to know what I remember most vividly in life? The times I failed. Each scar is not only a lesson, it's a moment for growth, and you can carry it with you for eternity. September 18th, 2011, a date I'll never forget, playing at the University of Arizona. I go to make a routine tackle, and suddenly a teammate comes colliding into my knee. I go from projected first-round pick to having a doctor tell me I might not play again. 3 surgeries, 5 months go by. During that time, I have the opportunity to feel angry, sad, frustrated, and dejected. I remember my physical therapist awakening me to the fact that I had 3 options in reality. I could quit, I could just do what was asked of me, or I could devote myself to playing again. You see, now 2 of those options end in regret. But the third is the important one. The only way you can look back at your efforts with pride is if you work your hardest. On my road to recovery, there are plenty of times, it's a frustrating journey. Every time you try and do something new, learn to walk again, learn to jog, learn to run, you'll inevitably fail multiple times. But you can use those failures as an opportunity to motivate yourself and propel yourself forward. You have to realize that most things are beyond your control, but the precious few things that you do have control over, own them. Discover the immense clarity in knowing that discover the immense clarity in knowing that the only thing you can master and bend to your will is your mind. When you find yourself in those most challenging moments, when things look bleak and the odds are not in your favor, smile. Smile at the knowledge that your efforts are something that no one can take from you. I know that you have come from places far worse than this, and what you do now is a pleasure compared to where you've been. What we face in life is always unique. One man's struggles may not be another's. Yet we all undoubtedly face hardship in one way or another. Relish in the obstacles of your past, and let the lessons from your failures fuel you to new heights. Class of 18, if I've bored you so far, my message is this. As young men, you have the most precious commodity in the world, time. More than anybody else in this crowd, more than the faculty, more than myself, more than your parents. You see, you can earn money, you can sell it, you can trade it, friends come and go, life changes, but the one thing you can never buy back is time. Once it's gone, it never comes back. So rejoice in the fact that you have this incredibly valuable asset, and prepare for your next phase in life. Know that you hold the pen to your own story, and as you go on to this next chapter, it's up to you to determine what happens next. But I hope that you carry these three things with you. Discipline equals freedom. The things you do allow you the peace of mind and the clarity to do the things you love. Choose the hard things first, and then get to do the things you enjoy after. Be brutally honest with yourself. Figure out the things you want in life, and go after them. Don't distract yourself with excuses. Focus on the things that are most important and how you will accomplish them. And lastly, failure is fuel. Let every difficult moment in your life stay within you. Let it burn. Let it be the fire that helps propel you forward in life. Never forget where you come from or the things you've overcome. And with that, I want to congratulate you and wish you the best of luck as you move on to your next endeavors. Thank you.